All right, welcome back to another deep dive. So today we're going to tackle a paradox that I think is going to feel a little uncomfortably familiar to a lot of you. It certainly did for me. I mean, we live in this world that's just obsessed with connection, right?
Completely.
You've got Discord, Instagram, multiplayer lobbies, Zoom. We are technically more linked up than any human beings in history.
On paper, yes, we're hyper-connected.
But, and here's the twist, if you actually look at the data on how we spend our free time, especially how we play, we aren't connecting at all. We're seeing this massive silent retreat into solitude. It looks like we're all playing together, but the numbers suggest we're actually, increasingly alone.
It's the huge difference between being online and truly being social. And to really understand what's going on here,
Huh.
we've been poring over this fascinating paper by Quentin Alvarez called The Spiral of Solo Play.
And this isn't just about video games, is it? I mean, we're going to talk a lot about gamers, but we're also talking about French sociological data and even lab rats.
Oh, we are definitely going to talk about rats.
And ultimately, we're talking about the fabric of how we interact as human beings. So the mission today is to figure out why adults are choosing to play alone and what this so-called spiral is actually doing to our brains.
Yeah, it's a really rich set of sources. We're combining hard data from CEL, that's the Syndicat des Éditeurs de Logiciels de Loisirs.
The big French video game industry body.
Exactly. We're looking at their trends from 2020 to 2024, and we're cross-referencing that with ethology.
Which is the study of animal behavior.
Right. Because it turns out the way a rat behaves in a cage tells us, a scary amount about how a human behaves in a digital lobby.
Okay, I can't wait to get to the biology part, but let's start with the what. What does the data actually say? Because I think most people, myself included, assume gamers are these hypersocial creatures, always on headsets, chatting away.
That is absolutely the stereotype. And if you just glance at the surface numbers, it kind of seems true. In France, something like 75% of the population plays video games. That's a massive cultural footprint. But here's the statistic that it stops you in your tracks. 98% of those gamers play solo.
98%.
98.
Wow, that's basically everyone.
It's essentially the entire gaming population.
Yeah.
Now, there is overlap. About 59% of people will say they play socially, meaning online or with friends sometimes.
Okay.
But the dominance of that solo figure is just overwhelming. And the analysis in the paper argues we need to be very, very careful with how we even define that word social.
Okay, let's unpack that.
Yeah.
Because this is where I get a little defensive. If I'm playing a game online, say I'm in a match of Fortnite or something, I'm connected to the internet. There are other real people on that server. How is that not social?
Well, this is what Alvarez calls the social myth. Just because you're logged into a server, it doesn't automatically mean you're having a social interaction.
Hmm.
Think about the nature of it. If you play a game like Valorant or World of Warcraft, you usually have to coordinate to succeed.
Yeah.
You have to talk, plan.
Right. I'll heal you. You go tank that boss, that kind of thing.
Exactly. That is social play, cooperation.
Okay.
But compare that to, say, a battle royale, like Fortnite if you're playing solo, or a racing game. You might be playing against 99 other people, but are you talking to them?
No, honestly.
Yeah.
Usually have them all muted because they're annoying.
Exactly. You're playing alongside them or against them, but you're not really playing with them. And in a lot of modern games, you might even be playing against bots.
AI players.
AI players that pretend to be people, and half the time you wouldn't even know the difference.
That is such a good point. If I can't tell if it's a real person or a script, it's not much of a social connection, is it?
Precisely. You're physically alone in your room, and you're mentally alone in the game, even if that little green online light is on. You're treating the other players as objects, obstacles.
So the technology gives us this illusion of connection, but functionally, I'm just engaging with a machine. And the sources say this gets worse as we get older.
This is where the data gets really, really interesting. If you look at kids, say 10 to 17, the social aspect is actually pretty real for them. About 86% of them play socially.
Which any parent with a teenager can confirm. It is loud.
Very loud.
Yeah.
They're on headsets, they're shouting at their friends from school. It's a chaotic group thing. But for adults, that number just plummets. Only 54% even claim to play socially. And there was a data point from 2021 that really hammers it home.
What was that?
67% of adults said they play alone versus only 20% playing with someone else in the same room.
That's a huge gap. So that image of, a bunch of friends on a couch having a beer, playing FIFA, that's kind of dying out.
For adults, it seems so. The reality is sitting alone. And to understand why we're doing this, why we're drifting from the pack, we have to leave the living room and go to the lab.
Yes, let's talk about the rats. This was the part of the research that just blew my mind. I never thought I'd be comparing my video game habits to a rodent, but okay, here we are.
This is from the work of an ethologist named Claude Bench, right?
That's correct. Bench did these classic experiments on isolation. He wanted to see how being isolated affects the play drive in rats. So, generally speaking, if you take a young rat, you isolate it for a while, and then you put it back in with the group. What do you think happens?
Well, I'd assume it's lonely. It would probably want to play more to kind of catch up.
Exactly. It usually plays more socially to compensate for the lost time. It chases, it wrestles. It's called a rebound effect. The rat is basically hungry for connection.
Okay, so that's the healthy, normal response. That's the healthy response. Bench found this terrifying exception. If the rat is kept in an environment that is poor in stimuli like a really boring cage, nothing to do, just gray walls, when you put it back with the group, it doesn't play socially.
Wait, really?
Solitary play actually increases.
So because it was bored and understimulated, it chooses to play alone even when friends are right there?
Yes, it retreats into itself. And to explain why, we have to look at how biology classifies play. Bench, building on the work of giants like Jean Piaget, outlines these 3 evolutionary stages of play.
Okay, lay them on me. I know there are some big Greek words coming, so let's break them down.
Okay, so the first stage,
Eopady.
eopady.
Got it.
Yeah, eo means something like dawn or early.
Yeah.
So this is infancy. Think of a human baby.
Okay, picturing a baby.
What's a baby doing? It's kicking its legs, grabbing its own feet, putting things in its mouth. It's solitary. It's about motor function. It's focused entirely on the self.
Right. It's me-focused. A baby isn't looking for a teammate.
Exactly. Then you get stage 2, mesopady. This is puberty. This is where you start playing with others. But it's rough play. Fighting, chasing.
And like puppies tackling each other in a pile.
Exactly like that. The focus shifts to integrating into the group, figuring out the social hierarchy. It's messy, but it's social.
Got it.
And finally, you have neopady. Neo for new. This is adulthood. This is where humans are supposed to land. Complex social interactions, rules, rituals, organized games. We usually hit this stage by age 5 or 6.
So biologically as adults, we should be firmly in neopady. We should be seeking out complex social engagement.
We should be, yes.
But the data we just looked at, that 98% solo play number,
It shows the complete opposite.
shows we're going backwards.
And that is the really provocative conclusion here. By retreating into solo play, into these digital bubbles, adult gamers are behaviorally regressing to eopady.
We're turning back into infants.
In a behavioral sense, you could argue yes. When an adult sits alone, grinding a repetitive loop in a game, shutting out the world, focused only on their own screen, their own inputs, they are mimicking the behavior of that infant. It's self-centered, it's repetitive, and it's solitary.
That is a little depressing. Nobody wants to hear their Friday night relaxation is actually a regression to infancy. But why? Why would a fully grown adult brain choose to go back to that?
This is the million-dollar question. And the answer, according to the sources, is all about biological economics. The term is homeostasis.
Homeostasis, I know that one. It's about keeping your body temperature stable, that kind of thing.
It's about keeping your entire internal environment stable. And the theory here is that solo play isn't just fun, it's a defense mechanism. It's a way to regulate our internal state when it gets out of whack.
The numbers from that Cell 2021 study seem to back this up big time. They asked adults why they play, and I was expecting answers like to compete or to hang out with friends.
And what did you find instead?
The number one reason, at 79%, was simply to reduce boredom. Then 74% said to feel joy, 65% to fight stress and pressure, and 59% to fight anxiety.
Okay, just look at that list for a second. Boredom, joy, stress, anxiety. What do those all have in common?
They're feelings. They're my feelings.
Exactly. They are auto-centered motivations. They're
Wow.
all about you. Compare that to only 52% who mentioned maintaining social links. We're not playing to connect. We are playing to cope. We're playing to soothe ourselves.
So let's walk through the homeostasis theory. I get home from a tough day at work. My boss was on my case. Traffic was awful. The news is stressful. My internal state is, it's chaos. It's off balance.
Right. Your cortisol is up. Your energy is shot. Now, you could call a friend. You could go out. But social interaction, that neopady stuff, it's expensive. It takes effort, empathy, listening. It burns energy.
And I don't have any energy left to burn.
Exactly. So your brain, being efficient, chooses the path of least resistance. It chooses eopady. It chooses the solitary, predictable, repetitive loop of the game. It soothes the anxiety without demanding any social energy. It restores your balance.
So I'm basically using the game like a digital pacifier.
In a very real sense, yes. You are self-soothing.
Okay, I get that. And honestly, I sympathize with it. We're all exhausted. But why is it a spiral? Why isn't it just a healthy break?
Because of the feedback loop it creates. This is the model Quentin Alvarez proposes, the spiral of solo play. And it has a few steps. Step 1, you're stressed, so you play alone to regulate, that's fine. But step 2,
Mhm.
because you're spending your free time alone, you're practicing social play less. You're not exercising those social muscles.
Use it or lose it.
Right. And then step 3, as you reduce those social interactions, your perceptive dimension diminishes.
Perceptive dimension. Okay, that sounds a bit academic. What does it mean?
It's just your exposure to new things, to new stimuli. When you interact with other people, they're unpredictable. They surprise you. That keeps your brain sharp and your world big. But if your main interaction is with a predictable game code, your world starts to shrink.
Okay, so my world gets smaller, less interesting.
And then comes step 4. As your world gets smaller and less stimulating, you get bored. Or you become even less equipped to deal with the chaos of real human beings. So what do you do to fix that?
I go back to the game.
You play alone again to compensate. And round it goes. The more you isolate, the harder it becomes to be social, which in turn makes you want to isolate more.
That's the spiral. And there was this specific group in the data that I think illustrates this perfectly. They were called the convivial gamers.
Ah, yes. The convivial gamers. A great name.
When I first read that label, I thought, okay, finally, here are the social ones. The data says they're about 29% of players, and they typically live in families' households of 4 or more people.
So they are literally surrounded by potential playmates.
Exactly. But here's the kicker, and it's a wild one. 83% of this convivial group plays alone.
It just completely deconstructs the label, doesn't it?
It's haunting. You can just picture a family living room, mom, dad, 2 kids. Physically, they're feet apart from each other, but in reality, everyone is in their own little solo play bubble.
It's the death of the living room conversation. The paper argues that even within a family, individuals are isolating themselves to recharge. Instead of the family providing that rich stimulus, the arguments, the jokes, the stories, everyone just retreats to their digital safe space.
So even just being in the same room as other people doesn't guarantee a connection. We might actually be using solo play to hide from the very people we live with.
Because dealing with your family, as much as you love them, is also energetically expensive. It's often easier to farm resources in Minecraft than to navigate a disagreement with your spouse.
Oof, that hits hard. And it makes you wonder about the sheer amount of time we're sinking into this, because if it were 5 minutes a day, maybe it wouldn't matter. But it's not 5 minutes, is it?
Not even close. The paper ran some calculations based on 2020 data, and the time imbalance is just staggering.
Okay, let's hear the math.
For adults, the estimate is that they spend roughly 45 minutes per day on solo video games.
45 minutes. Okay, that's a sitcom episode. That's a workout. That's a significant chunk of your free waking life.
It is. Now compare that to the time they spend on social video games.
I'm guessing it's a lot lower.
6 minutes.
Woo! 45 versus 6. That's not even in the same ballpark.
It's a massive discrepancy. And just to show you that this seems to be an adult problem, look at the kids again. Kids from 10 to 17 spend about 30 minutes solo and 18 minutes social.
See, that's much more balanced. 1 to 2, roughly.
Right. They're still getting that social diet. Adults, on the other hand, are basically starving themselves of social play.
But wait, let me play devil's advocate. What about board games? You know, there's been this big renaissance of board games. My friends and I play Catan. Doesn't that help balance the scales?
It helps little. The analysis did add board games into the mix, estimating about 17 minutes a day on average for them. But just do the math. Add that 17 minutes of social board gaming to the 6 minutes of social video gaming.
You're still only at 23 minutes of social play.
Versus the 45 minutes of solo play.
So even with board games, solo play is dominating our leisure time almost 2 to 1. The spiral is just eating up the clock.
It really is.
So what does this all mean? If we zoom out, is this just about games, or is this a much bigger societal red flag? Because it feels like this retreat is happening everywhere.
The paper definitely argues it's bigger than games. It's about our whole digital ecosystem. If you look at trends in France, for example, watching TV used to be a family activity.
Right, everyone gathered around the one screen.
Exactly. In the 80s, only about 25% of people watched TV alone. By 2010, that jumped to 40%. And that was before the huge explosion of personal tablets and phones.
So we're streaming alone, we're gaming alone, we're scrolling alone.
We are. And think about what that means for the digital commons. We talk a lot about online communities, Discord servers, guilds, forums. We just assume they'll always be vibrant. But if the natural trajectory of an adult is to spiral into solo play as they get older, those communities could face a kind of demographic cliff.
What do you mean by that?
Well, as the population ages, if everyone follows this pattern of retreating into private experiences to soothe their anxiety, then the digital town square starts to empty out. It just becomes a ghost town of lurkers who never actually talk to each other.
That's a really scary thought. The internet becoming a silent library where everyone's just reading their own book in a corner.
It's a possibility.
Oh,
But maybe the most pressing concern the source raises is the intergenerational risk.
we're back to the kids.
We're back to the kids. We said they're currently balanced, right? They still play socially. But children learn by modeling. They watch what their parents do.
Oh, I see where this is going. If I'm one of those convivial gamer parents.
And you come home from work, say a quick hi, and then immediately put on noise-canceling headphones to play a solo game for an hour to decompress. What are you teaching your child?
I'm teaching them that isolation is the normal way to handle life's problems.
Precisely. You are modeling EOPATY, that infant-like withdrawal, as the standard coping mechanism for adult stress.
And if the home is full of parents in their own bubbles, then that home environment itself becomes poor in stimuli, just like the rat cage.
And what happened to the rats in the boring cages?
They stopped playing socially.
The cycle repeats. The parents who are stuck in the spiral of solo play might be completely unintentionally pushing their own children into that spiral much, much earlier.
That is heavy. That puts a real weight on how we choose to spend that hour after dinner. But
Yeah.
I think it's important we look at the other side of this before we wrap up. We've been talking about homeostasis, about stress relief.
Yes. And this is the crucial nuance. We shouldn't necessarily demonize solo play. The world is incredibly demanding right now. It is loud, it is aggressive, and it's hyper-connected in ways that are just flat-out exhausting.
So maybe we need the spiral. Maybe retreating to the cave is a necessary survival tactic.
That is the final provocation, isn't it?
Yeah.
If solo play is a strategy for resilience, a way to survive in a world that feels violent or dehumanized, then is this rise in solitary gaming actually a disease? Or is it the medication?
Is it the cure that keeps us from breaking down?
It just might be. If playing a game alone for 45 minutes lets a person lower their cortisol so they can be a patient parent or a focused employee the next day, then maybe it's a necessary adaptation for our time.
But the danger is the dosage.
Exactly. The danger is getting stuck in the loop. Using it to recharge is one thing. Staying there and losing your ability to connect with others, that's another thing entirely. That's the balance we have to find. Resilience versus isolation.
It really makes you look at your own downtime differently. The next time I pick up a controller, I think I'm going to ask myself a tough question. Am I doing this to recharge so I can come back to the world? Or am I just hiding from it?
And that's the question we should all probably be asking. Are you visiting EOPATY to rest, or are you moving in for good?
A huge thank you to Quentin Alvarez for the research that sparked all this, and to the Cell for the data. And thank you, our listener, for spending this time with us socially, I might add. You are part of our perceptive dimension.
Absolutely.
Thanks for listening to the Deep Dive. We'll catch you on the next one.